Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to my Thanksgiving program. I have a lot of very interesting facts about Thanksgiving Day to relate to you on today's show. Thanksgiving is a very special holiday for many popular reasons. The food, the family, the friends, and the parades in town or on TV, along with sports games, are just a few. Less well known, however, are the many fascinating facts behind the holiday's histories, traditions, and myths. The truth is, for many of us, there's a lot we just don't know about the holiday that we celebrate every fourth Thursday in November. So, while carving up your family's turkey this year, or partaking of another kind of holiday food, let's take the time to learn some of the most interesting Thanksgiving facts that I could find in my research. At the very least, you'll have some fun and harmless dinner conversations. Okay, at the very least, you'll have some fun dinner conversations to contribute. The event commonly referred to as the first Thanksgiving was celebrated in October of 1621. It was organized by Governor William Bradford of Plymouth, Massachusetts, to celebrate the recent immigrants' first successful corn harvest in the New World. While the meal lacked much of what is now common Thanksgiving fare, there is actually no record of turkey being served. But, for example, there was venison and also duck, goose, oysters, lobster, eel, and fish were served alongside pumpkins and cranberries, but not as pumpkin pie or cranberry sauce. Members of the Wampanoag tribe came bearing food to share, and they had so much bounty, the revelers decided to extend the affair, and their Thanksgiving lasted for 3 days. The first national Thanksgiving was declared by President George Washington and was celebrated on November 26, 1789. In his Thanksgiving proclamation, Washington defines the day as a pious time to thank God for, amongst other things, protecting Americans and helping them achieve independence. Presidents originally had to declare Thanksgiving a holiday every year. However, Jefferson refused to recognize the event because he believed so firmly in the separation of church and state. Since Thanksgiving involved prayer and reflection, he thought designating it a national holiday would violate the First Amendment. He also thought it was better suited as a state holiday, not a federal one. Sarah Hale is known as the Mother of Thanksgiving because at a time when the holiday was only celebrated in the Northeast, she spent 4 decades campaigning for a national day of thanks. In 1863, she finally persuaded then President Abraham Lincoln to reinstate the holiday nationwide. In addition, Hale was also a successful editor and poet, penning the famous Mary Had a Little Lamb and retiring at the ripe age of 90. In the midst of the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt moved Thanksgiving up 1 week in order to allow more time for shopping before Christmas. Otherwise, it would have fallen on November 30th. The move spurred intense public reaction, though none as memorable as a stunt pulled by Atlantic City's then Mayor C.D. White. In a public statement issued the day before the new Thanksgiving was designated by Roosevelt, White announced that his city would celebrate 2 days of thanks and that the earlier date would be known as Franksgiving. The tradition of U.S. presidents receiving turkeys as gifts can be traced back to the 1870s, but it was Harry S. Truman who became the first to receive one from the Poultry and Egg National Board and the National Turkey Federation in 1947. It was intended, perhaps, as a peace offering by the poultry industry after egg growers sent crates of live chickens to the White House labeled "Hens for Harry," an act of protest against the president's short-lived encouragement of poultry-less Thursdays. And though the Truman Library and Museum disputes that he was the first to pardon a presidential turkey, a murky tradition of presidents receiving, but not eating, turkeys began. It continued under the administration of Kennedy, who was the first president to let a Thanksgiving turkey go, Nixon, who was the first president who sent a turkey to a petting zoo, Carter, and Reagan. In 1989, following this tradition, the first official turkey pardon was granted by George H.W. Bush. With animal rights activists standing nearby, the president quipped that this fine tom turkey will not end up on anyone's dinner table. Not this guy. He's granted a presidential pardon as of right now. No turkey for Thanksgiving? President Calvin Coolidge was the first to pardon a raccoon in relation to Thanksgiving. Yep. In November of 1926, President Calvin Coolidge was gifted a live raccoon intended to be his Thanksgiving dinner. He wasn't super into the idea of eating a raccoon, so he decided to keep it as a pet instead. This really wasn't unusual, as the President and First Lady, Grace Coolidge, were known to be animal lovers. They were often randomly sent pets, including ones on the unconventional side, like a bear, a lion, and lion cubs. To go back in time for just a minute, Benjamin Franklin liked turkeys more than he did bald eagles. There's a myth, which is just one of many in American history, that Benjamin Franklin preferred the turkey, a bird he held in much higher esteem than the bald eagle, as a replacement for America's official avian representative. The misconception likely stems from a letter that he wrote to his daughter, in which he lamented that the bald eagle is a bird of bad moral character, as he does not give his living honestly. He is too lazy to fish for himself, while the turkey is a much more respectable bird. But that's as far as his turkey fandom went. And although Franklin didn't have his wish granted, his letter did inspire a song performed in 1776, the Tony-winning musical about the drafting of the Declaration of Independence. Now, this is kind of interesting. Turkeys are named after the country, the result of confusion about birds. During the time of the Ottoman Empire, guinea fowl, birds that closely resemble turkeys, were often imported from their native North Africa to Europe to be eaten. Because Europeans received them from the Turkish traders, they referred to them as turkey hens. When settlers from the Americas began sending what we call turkeys back to their European counterparts, the latter, confused by the resemblance, began referring to them by the same name. Thus, we have turkeys. And Minnesota raises the most turkeys in the U.S. nowadays. Turkeys apparently prefer cold temperatures and friendly neighbors. Of all the U.S. states, Minnesota raises the most turkeys, according to the USDA. In fact, the over 450 turkey farms in that state are responsible for about 18+% of all turkeys raised and sold in the United States yearly. While Minnesota has perpetually been in the top of the rankings of domestic turkey producers since record keeping began in 1929, they've remained in the very top spot since North Carolina slowed its production in 2003. And here's a piece of trivia for you. Only the male turkeys actually gobble. Male turkeys, appropriately named gobblers, actually make the gobble gobble sound, where the female turkeys actually cackle instead. Actually. Now, if you are planning on cooking a turkey for Thanksgiving, Butterball, a popular turkey company, opens a turkey hotline each November and December to answer any turkey-related questions you may have. Founded in 1981, Turkey Talk Line went from receiving a modest 11,000 questions that first year to answering more than 100,000 questions across the U.S. and Canada every holiday season. Americans eat over 704 million pounds of turkey every Thanksgiving. According to the National Federation, over 44 million turkeys are served at Thanksgiving in the United States. That's compared to over 22 million pounds at Christmas and over 19 million pounds at Easter. The average weight of each, meanwhile, was 16 pounds, which means we're gobbling up, oh boy, way over 704 million pounds of turkey across the country. And I am definitely one of them. Do you know the original TV dinner was a result of a Thanksgiving miscalculation? The original TV dinner was a result of a Thanksgiving miscalculation in 1953 as an executive at the Swanson miscalculated the company's upcoming Thanksgiving turkey sales, leaving the company with some 260 tons of frozen fowl following the holiday. Fortunately for Swanson, a salesman by the name of Gary Thomas suggested packaging the excess product into trays along with some traditional sides and selling them to consumers as TV dinners. Thomas was apparently inspired by the pre-portioned trays used to serve airplane food. And speaking of leftovers, according to a Harris poll, a large majority of Americans, over 81%, prefer the leftovers of the Thanksgiving meal to the meal itself. Another finding is that millennials look forward to the turkey portion of the meal less than any other age group. And according to a survey by the alcohol delivery service Drizzly, about 50% of households serve red wine with Thanksgiving dinner. Only about 10% drink white wine, and the rest are pouring something else, whether that be soft drinks, beers, or cocktails, or simply water. On a different food avenue, tofurkey roasts have existed since 1995. Those who rarely partake in turkey would have indulged in some tasty options at the very first Thanksgiving, since the original guests sampled a seafood spread of oysters and delectable shellfish courtesy of the Native Americans. These days, one main meatless alternative is the tofurkey. Get a taste of plant-based meat from Tofurkey for Thanksgiving with their vegan-friendly, non-GMO Tofurkey roast. Vegetarians, vegans, and pescatarians can delight in this tantalizing holiday option. But now for the turkey bone. After the turkey and the meal is all taken care of and all the dishes are washed and put away, the tradition of cracking the wishbone is actually an ancient one. For some, Thanksgiving dinner just isn't complete until the bird's wishbone is snapped, bestowing luck on the bearer of the bigger piece. Would you believe that this custom is thousands of years older than the holiday? It sure is. Wishing on bird bones traces back to ancient Etruscans who used chickens to help them predict the future. After the chickens died, the Etruscans would dry their wishbones, or forcula, in the sun to keep them as good luck charms. And now, on our way to dessert, Americans eat an estimated 50 million pumpkin pies on Thanksgiving. Now, some of us consider pumpkin pie a vehicle for whipped topping and could take it or leave it. If you'd also rather leave your pumpkins for Halloween and dig into another Thanksgiving dessert, you're not alone. According to the American Pie Council, more Americans prefer apple pie overall, with pumpkin pie coming in second place. One Connecticut town delayed Thanksgiving because of a pumpkin pie shortage. Wow! Well, sort of. Pumpkin pies were mostly popular as a Thanksgiving dessert in New England early in the 18th century, becoming more synonymous with the holiday across the country in the early 20th century. But, according to history, the town of Colchester in Connecticut agreed to hold the holiday a week when a molasses shortage threatened their ability to make the gourd based sweet. The turkey isn't to blame for your post-dinner slump. No. A widely accepted myth will have you believe that it's the main dish of the meal that makes you eager for a nap after you eat Thanksgiving dinner. But it's time to stop blaming the turkey and its tryptophan for your sluggishness. Though the amino acids does help your body produce melatonin, which promotes relaxation and sleep, turkey really doesn't have any more of it than its poultry brethren. So why the immediate desire to nod off? Well, because eating a big meal, any big meal, makes you sleepy. Now, here is something to think about. Black Friday isn't just big business for retailers. Nope. Plumbers and drain cleaners get in on the action too. According to Roto-Rooter, the day after Thanksgiving is the busiest day of the year for those who keep water flowing and going in homes and businesses. Thanksgiving meals tend to bring forth heavy loads on the day after Turkey Day because the average number of calories consumed on Thanksgiving is 4,500 plus. Local parades and parades on TV are a featured event on Thanksgiving Day. If you can't imagine the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade without giant floats featuring your favorite characters, you'd barely recognize the first parade in the early 1920s. There were no huge balloons, but it did have puppets riding the iconic floats as well as singers and celebrities, and of course Santa Claus. That said, when the Thanksgiving parade made its big debut in 1924, no balloons and little puppetry was featured, but they did have animals from the Central Park Zoo. Did you know that the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons used to just be let go after the show? The first large-scale balloon used in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade was Felix the Cat in 1927, replacing the earlier zoo animals that were used in the first 3 iterations of the parade. Because there were no plans yet for deflating the balloons, most were simply allowed to float away afterwards. Unfortunately, this strategy didn't prove very effective, as most popped shortly after they were released. And before 1997, there were no size regulations on Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons. In 1997, the Barney balloon was ripped along its abdomen due to the strong winds, while the Pink Panther had to be stabbed by police in order to be stabilized. The worst event occurred when the Cat in the Hat struck a lamppost at 72nd Street and then crumpled to the ground. In response to 1997 calamities, organizers of the parade instituted size regulations that required all balloons to be no larger than 70 feet high, 78 feet long, and 40 feet wide. There are over 50 million people that watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And it is calculated that another 3.5 million people, plus, there's a plus sign behind that, view it in person, and roughly over 10,000 participate in non-pandemic years at least. And though the parade doesn't begin until 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, many spectators arrive as early as 6:30 a.m., lining the streets of New York to get a perfect spot along the route. 44 years after the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Snoopy made his debut as a balloon in 1968. Throughout the years, the Beagle has had a total of 7 balloons, making 39 appearances on and off through 2015, before he was replaced with Charlie Brown in 2016. He returned as an astronaut for the 2019 parade, bringing his balloon total to 8. Now for you video game lovers, Sonic the Hedgehog was the first video game character making its debut in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 1993. Sonic the Hedgehog appeared in front of millions of spectators, and the children certainly enjoyed seeing their fast and furious blue guy grace the television screen. Now, if you don't want to be in New York City, most people travel to Orlando, Florida, than anywhere else on Thanksgiving. According to estimates by AAA, over 55 million Americans will travel 50 miles or more for Thanksgiving dinner with family or friends. The most popular of these destinations, according to the book Info, were Orlando, Florida, followed closely by Anaheim, California, and then thirdly, New York City. Also, there are 4 towns in the United States named Turkey. They can be found in Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, and North Carolina. And the U.S. Census has identified 4 towns named Cranberry, and a grand total of 34 towns called Plymouth. And now for you sports lovers, the first professional Thanksgiving Day football game was played in 1920. Over a century ago, Thanksgiving Day fell on November 25th, and there were 6 football games played, according to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Non-league teams like Elira Athletics that went up against the league teams counted in standings. Football fans, whip these stats out from the result of that year's games, and you will win at Table Talk. The Akron Pros 7 versus Canton Bulldogs 0. Decatur Staleys 6 versus Chicago Tigers 0. Elira Ohio Athletics 0 versus Columbus Panhandlers 0. Dayton Triangles 28 versus Detroit Heralds 0. Chicago Boosters 27 versus Hammond Pros 0. All Tonawanda, New York 14 versus Rochester Jeffersons 3. Like many other holidays, Thanksgiving does have its Thanksgiving songs, which are known as Thanksgiving carols. Some are traditional, some are modern, and there's one that actually came as a nice surprise to me when I was researching music for Thanksgiving. The song Over the River and Through the Woods originated from a poem written in 1844 titled A Boy's Thanksgiving Day. It includes the phrase, "Hooray for Thanksgiving Day." Modern versions of the song change the references to Christmas. One version, recorded by Danny Kaye and the Andrews Sisters, was renamed A Merry Christmas at Grandmother's House. The surprise song, Jingle Bells, the classic Christmas song, was written by James Lord Pierpont in 1857, and it wasn't meant to be about Christmas. Originally titled One Horse Open Sleigh, the song was meant to be sung on Thanksgiving. When it was reprinted in 1859, however, the name was changed to Jingle Bells, or One Horse Open Sleigh, and was prescribed for Christmas. Another very sweet song is called the Thanksgiving Prayer that Johnny Cash sang to his wife, June Carter Cash, that was first played in a 1994 episode of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.